Hello and welcome. So today, guys, we are going to be reviewing two of the latest launches from Paris Corner. These two fragrances are part of the same collection, and one of them is Mawj Appletini and the other one is Mawj Cognac Blaze. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to talk about these two, but I'm also going to go ahead and compare this one to several other fragrances that I'm sure you're very familiar with. We're going to compare it to Kilian's Angel Share, of course, and then we will compare it to LATTAFAA's KHAMRAH. And of course, last but not least, we're also going to cover KHAMRAH. So we're going to go ahead and compare, and I'm going to give you all of the details that I discovered during testing and some of the research behind it. And then of course, at the end, I will tell you, especially when it comes to Cognac Blaze, is it really a fragrance that I think was designed to be inspired by Kilian's Angel Share? And if I do, how close do I think it comes to the OG, which is Kilian's Angel Share? But before we jump right in, if this is your first time here, I'm Arahi, and I'm your fragrance concierge because I'm totally committed to creating the best fragrance experience for you. I upload videos on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays, and sometimes you even get a bonus video for the week. If that sounds like the type of content that you're interested in and like a good plan, then please consider subscribing, give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget to leave a comment. Let's go. All right, guys, so before we get started, I also wanted to let you know that I am not going to be sharing the box and much of the packaging because, as I've been telling you recently, there is an unboxing short on the channel for each of these fragrances. So if you're interested in taking a look at the box that the fragrance comes in and a bit more detail around the bottle itself, then please head over to the shorts on the channel and you will find one for each of the two fragrances that we will be discussing today. All right, so let me tell you guys, we're going to start with Mawj Appletini. Now, Mawj Appletini is supposed to be inspired by Kilian's Brandy on the Rocks. And this is not a fragrance that I currently have in my collection. At one point, I did have a decant at a 10 ml, so I did use it for a while, but I never picked it up. I don't know. It's not that I didn't like the fragrance. I thought that it was really good, but I just never came around to it, which tells me that if I did pick up a full bottle, you know, I may have liked it, but it was not an absolute love where I felt that I needed to, you know, go dish out that kind of money. So just keep in mind that while I may have some sort of memory around what that fragrance was like, you know, I haven't sniffed it in like the past 6 months. So that does make a difference. So because of that, I'm only going to be reviewing this fragrance. I'm not going to focus on comparing it to anything because when I do a comparison, I like to have the original fragrance with me, right? So that I can test it in advance of giving you my comparison review. So today, I'm just going to talk about this fragrance like if Kilian's Apple Brandy on the Rocks were not a fragrance that we think this one may have been inspired by. But although we're not doing a full-on comparison to Kilian's Apple Brandy on the Rocks, I do want you to take a look at the notes of each of these fragrances, and that should give you a bit of an idea if we could expect Appletini to be a spot-on or close to the OG. So this is a fragrance, guys, that opens quite fresh, spicy. There is an inherent spiciness to this fragrance that you're going to pick up as soon as you sniff it. Now, although it does open fresh, spicy, I don't want you to think that the foundation of this fragrance is around that spiciness, because what I find is that the stars of this fragrance, at least to my nose, are the pineapple, I'm getting like a green apple, and brandy. Now, in addition to those dominant notes, I am picking up continuously, like from midway through the olfactory journey and all throughout the wear of the fragrance, I am picking up some woodiness, but the woodiness never takes like front stage. It's always like in the background, supporting all of the activity that's going on in the front of the fragrance. I also find that this has a bit of like an earthy quality to it. The fragrance does have that earthy quality, and I think that it may be coming from that note of moss. Another thing that I did want to mention is that this fragrance apparently has a production date of the beginning of 2024. Let me go ahead and share with you what my box says. Now that you've seen that it does have a production date that is not very recent, but it's not like over a year, right? I do want you to keep that in mind when we speak about performance. This fragrance definitely does remind me of apple brandy on the rocks, for sure. But there is something here that doesn't allow me to tell you that it is full on reminding me of my experience when I was using the OG. So I really don't feel comfortable with comparing this at all, which is what I was trying to explain to you a couple minutes ago. Now, this fragrance is one that I do consider to be completely unisex. And I think that for the ages of 25 plus, this is a fragrance that is perfect. This fragrance is boozy, guys, but it's not very boozy. It is definitely sweet. And again, what I'm getting are the green apple. It's a green apple to my nose, pineapple, and then I'm also getting like a bit of vanilla, but not much. And of course, as I said earlier, all of that has like a backdrop of woodiness. The woodiness is not faint, but it's also never really present, if you know what I mean. It's almost like it's in the fragrance and it's like an afterthought. Because of all of that, I find the fragrance to be quite smooth. I think that this is a good blend, but I do wonder, guys, as I allow this fragrance to sit, how will it develop? Will it pick up a bit more richness, denseness? Because I do find it to be quite airy right now. To my nose, this is coming across as like a kind of like a bit of a candied green apple, airy, with a bit of vanilla and a touch of woodiness for depth and character fragrance, you know? So it's not giving me necessarily, you know, apple brandy on the rocks, but it is definitely giving me a twist, which would make it a bit more airy, because what I do recall from that fragrance is that it was very dense. It was not, you know, it was a lovely fragrance, but it was dense. And this one is very, very airy. So I'm wondering if that airiness is because it hasn't had a chance to really macerate. Now, with that being said, you did see the date. I mean, that's not very recent. It's been over 5 months. So this fragrance has had a chance to sit for a certain degree. But, you know, there are fragrances that take, you know, much more than 6 months to fully macerate. So that may be the case of this one. Or maybe they just decided to create an airier version of the OG. But to me, this is not really the OG. This is more of like a twist. This fragrance has absolutely no oud, and I think that it is best suited for like the seasons of fall, winter, and spring. You can use it all throughout the spring, and you can also use it during the summer, but not on days that are like over 75 degrees Fahrenheit. That's just in my opinion, because although this one is not as dense as I recall the Kilian to be, this is a fragrance that has a certain degree of airiness, but at the same time, you know, it has that sweetness, I don't know, and it has that booziness. So I just really don't think that it's a good idea to use it on a day that's very warm outside, where you're going to also be outside. Now, as far as performance, although this fragrance has had a chance to macerate a bit, I just really feel that it needs a bit more time, because that airiness and the way that I'm picking up the notes, it's almost like it needs to sit for a bit more before the full-on effect of the fragrance comes, right? So right now, all I'm getting from this fragrance without overspraying is 5 hours. And if I overspray, it really doesn't go over the 5.5 mark, right? When I overspray, what it does do is it does increase my initial projection, right? So the first, I would say, hour and a half is what I get if I don't overspray. But if I overspray, I do get a strong projection for the first 2 hours. Now, when it comes to sillage, the sillage is definitely moderate. I don't think that this fragrance was designed to be a powerhouse. I'm pretty confident that even after it sits, it's not going to be a beast mode fragrance, at least not on my skin. That's not what I'm picking up. But I do think that it will be one that performs rather well. All in all, guys, I really do like this fragrance very much. Is it a love right now? No, it's not a love yet. You know, I'm hoping that we will get there. But I also think that I'm just not in the season where I can really fall in love with this fragrance, you know. And although it does have that apple and the pineapple, and it is a bit airy, and I know that you could get away with using it, of course, during the summer, I just really think that I'm going to have a different reaction to it once we are approaching the fall season. I do recommend this fragrance, but right now I'm only willing to give it a 7 out of 10. All right, guys, so now let's go ahead and talk about the one that I've been really looking forward to sharing with you, because this is a very, very interesting fragrance, I'm going to tell you right now. And I am loving this fragrance. I also want to let you know this right now. Let's talk about if we think that Cognac Blaze is really inspired or supposed to be a dupe for Kilian's Angel Share or KHAMRAH, because, right, so this bottle, of course, is giving us Kilian's Angel Share, just like the one, just like the Appletini one. But to me, I've come to the point, guys, there's so many fragrance houses that have been trying to really break the code, in my opinion, of Kilian's Angel Share. And in my opinion, they have really, for the most part, failed. There's always, you know, there's some similarities. They get very close to this fragrance. I really want you to understand, you know, what the differences are, because I think they're not negligible. I said earlier, and just to remind you, I do have here my Kilian's Angel Share, and the first thing that I wanted to bring to your attention is look at this comparison. Of course, you are getting much more juice in this one. It's just the way that it comes, but pretty much the bottle is designed to look exactly like the one from Kilian's. I will tell you that the feel of this bottle, it is very, very heavy, but the cap is not as high quality, let's call it, as the cap that you find in the Kilian's bottle. So in addition to my Kilian's, since we're going to be doing a comparison, I did pull my LATTAFAA KHAMRAH, and you're all very familiar with this one. Personally, I'm not a fan of this packaging because while this circular shape gives it some sort of sleekness, I personally think that this is kind of clunky. To me, it's just very clunky. It is heavy. It doesn't feel luxurious to me because of the clunkiness. If not, I would think that this does have a luxury feel. Then last but not least, I also pulled my KHAMRAH because we are going to be doing a full-on comparison. Okay, guys, so let me tell you. This comparison that we're doing today, we're going to be doing it a little bit different because I have so much to say. So we're going to start by comparing these fragrances from a notes standpoint. And then after I'm done speaking in detail to the notes comparison, then we're going to get into the real juicy part, which is when we compare these fragrances from an accord standpoint, right? An accord. What is it that I'm picking up from each fragrance? What are the differences in what I'm picking up from each fragrance? So let's go ahead and start by comparing the notes of these 4 fragrances. You may have noticed from the notes that I just shared with you, the only 2 notes that all 4 fragrances have in common are tonka and some sort of woody note, right? But that is about it. So while both KHAMRAHs do have florals, and there are differences, and we'll talk more about that when we talk about the accords, there are differences in the florals that are being used and what the florals do to each fragrance. The KHAMRAHs do have florals. Angel Share has none. And then in Cognac Blaze, you only have Davana. Now, another thing that I did want to bring to your attention is that although only both KHAMRAHs and Cognac Blaze disclose that there's some sort of spicy note in it, right? You don't find that necessarily disclosed in Angel Share, but I'm here to tell you that to my nose, Angel Share does have some sort of spiciness to it, because I am picking up on that spiciness. And of course, we're going to talk more about that when we talk about the Accords. But I did want you to know that although they have not disclosed any spicy notes with an Angel Share note structure, I am picking up on spiciness. Another thing that I find rather interesting is that both Cameras and Cognac Blaze do have some fruity notes that have been disclosed. Personally, I don't think that Angel Share necessarily has fruits. It may have some sort of fruit accord, but in all honesty, I just don't pick up any fruitiness from Angel Share. Now, when it comes to both Cameras, it's all about the type of fruits that have been used in each. Because in KHAMRAH, the original, you do have some dates, but then in KHAMRAH, they disclose something called candied fruits, whatever that may be, right? Because there's so many fruits, and then candied, that could just be just about anything, right? And it could also be like a dry fruit that has been candied. See what I mean? So the way that they have each disclosed their fruits is what I find very interesting. Now, when it comes to Cognac Blaze, they have talked about having mandarin, right? So now it's not just fruity, but there's a certain level of zestiness that's brought on by the note of mandarin. So all in all, even the fruity aspect of these fragrances is not the same. Again, I'm not finding any fruitiness to my nose in Angel Share. I am finding fruitiness in the rest, but at that, the fruits have been done very differently. Now, last but not least, I wanted to talk a little bit about the nutty notes, right? So in both Cameras, you have praline, but there is no nut note of any type being reported for Angel Share. But I'm here to tell you that I do pick up on a bit of nuttiness in the background all throughout the olfactory journey of Angel Share. I definitely pick up on that nuttiness in both Cameras to a different, to different levels of intensity, but I do pick up on nuttiness on both. And then in Cognac Blaze, I am picking up on a tad of nuttiness. I have to wear that fragrance a bit more for me to really filter through and really tell you if I think there's nuttiness there. But as of right now, I am picking up on a bit of nuttiness in Cognac Blaze, but to a lesser extent or intensity than the nuttiness that I pick up on both Cameras. All right, guys, so now let's talk about all four fragrances from an Accord standpoint, right? So what is it that my nose is picking up as I sniff and I wear each one of these fragrances? And I think that the Accord that I find most interesting and that I really want to discuss with you first is the booziness. Wow. All four fragrances are definitely boozy, but I am telling you, with these four fragrances, you could almost have a bar at home because this is just very, very interesting, guys. So when it comes to Angel Share, you guys know that this is a fragrance that is very, very boozy. And if you've never gotten your nose on Angel Share and you love a boozy fragrance, oh, you're missing out on probably the best boozy fragrance out there, because this is truly a boozy fragrance. This is the most boozy of all four. Let me just start by telling you that. And this one, when it comes to booziness, this is all about the cognac. Now, when it comes to KHAMRAH, while Angel Share is very boozy, I just find the regular, the regular KHAMRAH to be boozy. Is it a little bit boozy? No. Is it kind of boozy? No. Is it super boozy? No. Is it very boozy? No. It is boozy. And at that, what I pick up is rum. And the rum, this rum is not like a white or light or clear. No, this is like a dark spiced rum, because I'm going to talk more about it when we talk about the spiciness in each fragrance. But the rum that I pick up in this fragrance is present, and it is present all the way from first sniff all the way throughout the wear of the fragrance. But the booziness is definitely to my nose coming from like a dark spiced rum. Now, it is so interesting to me because this is, I guess, a flanker of KHAMRAH, right? This is KHAMRAH, and I find this one to be just a tad boozy. This one is not as boozy as KHAMRAH, and for sure not as boozy, nowhere near the realm of boozy that you find in Angel Share. And what I find in this one is that the booziness, it's a bit of booziness. It's not like weak booziness, just a little bit of booziness to like add to the blend, which I really love the blend of KHAMRAH, by the way. So when it comes to that booziness, all I pick up in this one is brandy, exclusively brandy. Now, when it comes to Cognac Blaze, in this fragrance, guys, you know, the name says it. And as soon as you sniff the fragrance for the first time, you are going to pick up on the booziness, and it is definitely coming from the note of brandy. Now, this booziness though, while in the others, I find that the booziness, you know, that you pick up is directly coming from whatever they used, right? Whether it's rum, whether it's cognac, whether it's brandy. In this one, I can tell that it's cognac, but I don't know how to explain it any other way. It's almost like the booziness has been dissolved a bit or minimized a bit by bringing in a couple of other notes within the fragrance. And the note that I pick up that's really giving this fragrance a twist is the vanilla. So you are going to get that cognac and you are going to get that vanilla. And together, it gives it like a glazed feel. I don't know how else to explain it, guys. I hope I'm making some sort of sense, but that's exactly what I get from this fragrance. And it is a delight. It is beautiful. Now let's talk about the accord around sweetness, right? So are these fragrances sweet? So when it comes to Angel Share, guys, is super sweet. This is the sweetest of the four, and it is very sweet. To my nose, KHAMRAH is a tad sweet compared to KHAMRAH, which I find to be outright sweet. These two, when it comes to sweetness, and that sweetness, by the way, guys, I find that gives each one of these fragrances a different feel altogether. Because I'm telling you, KHAMRAH is just a tad sweet, while KHAMRAH is definitely sweet, but not as sweet as Kilian's Angel Share whatsoever. Now, interesting enough, when it comes to Cognac Blaze, guys, this fragrance is sweet, but it is the least sweet of the four. And there's a reason for that. And I'm going to talk more about that when I talk about, do I really think that this one was inspired by Angel Share or maybe inspired by KHAMRAH? We're going to talk more about that. But I can tell you that this one is the least sweet of the four. Right, so now let's talk about the vanilla aspect, right? Because the note of vanilla tends to be a game changer most of the time. And I find it very interesting, guys, that when it comes to Angel Share, the note of vanilla has not been disclosed. But I am going to tell you, and if you have ever sniffed this fragrance or you own it, can you please let us know in the comment section, do you really believe that this fragrance has no vanilla? Because I pick up on vanilla clearly. Is it a ton of vanilla? No. Is it a little bit of vanilla? No. Is it a barely there vanilla? No, it has vanilla. Now, when it comes to KHAMRAH and KHAMRAH, I can tell you that to my nose, there is a ton of vanilla in KHAMRAH, and there is just vanilla. Not like an Angel Share. In Angel Share, I told you that there wasn't a ton of vanilla, but that the vanilla is present even though they haven't disclosed it. In KHAMRAH, I am picking up on the vanilla, but the vanilla never really takes a front and center role. But the vanilla is present, just like it's always present to my nose in Angel Share. Now, when it comes to KHAMRAH, this fragrance to my nose has a ton of vanilla, and that plays a role in creating the difference between these two. Now, when it comes to KHAMRAH, and now speaking about Cognac Blaze, because these are the two that I really wanted to compare for you because they both have a ton of vanilla, but the vanilla has been done differently. Or let me just put it this way. The vanilla that you're going to pick up from both of these fragrances, even though they both have a ton of vanilla, it has not been done the same way. Because something that plays a key role in that comparison is the boozy note, right? So I did share with you that to my nose, KHAMRAH has a booziness to it, but it's just a tad boozy. But I did tell you that this one, is definitely boozy. It's also the type of boozy note that they've used, right? In one you have brandy, while in the other you have cognac, right? So in both of these fragrances, you are going to find a ton of vanilla, but the way that it's going to come through to you, it's not going to be the same. And at that, I can tell you that the vanilla that you pick up in KHAMRAH to you is going to come across as sweeter than the one that you pick up in a Cognac Blaze. All right, so now let's talk about the fruity accord, right? So I can tell you right now that Angel Share, they have not disclosed any type of fruit note in their note structure. And to my nose, there may be like a tad of like a fruity accord to it, but I don't think so, because I'm telling you, this fragrance is more about that booziness, and I do get some vanilla and of course the woodiness, but the fruitiness here really doesn't play a role. So I'm not even going to focus on fruitiness when it comes to Angel Share, because I'm really not picking up on much, if any, fruitiness here. Okay, so now when it comes to KHAMRAH and KHAMRAH KHAWA, what I find is that there is no fruitiness at all to my nose when it comes to KHAWA, which gives this fragrance a different spin than its predecessor, KHAMRAH. When it comes to KHAMRAH, I'm not necessarily picking up on fruitiness. What I am picking up is on some citrusness at some points of the olfactory journey, because it does open to my nose spicy, but fresh spicy. And that bit of fresh spicy that I'm picking up in KHAMRAH's opening is all due to the note of bergamot. And bergamot is not a note that to my nose translates as fruity, even though it is. It's more of a citrus feel, right? So that's what I get with KHAMRAH. Now with KHAMRAH KHAWA, I'm not picking up on any fruitiness. I'm not picking up on any citrusness. This to me is more woody to begin with. Very interestingly enough, I'm telling you, this fragrance, Cognac Blaze, has quite a bit of spin, truly like a twist, right? And when it comes to fruitiness, I would say that that's one of the key twists of this fragrance. And the fruitiness that I'm picking up here, you know, they have disclosed the note of mandarin, but I am picking up on so much more than mandarin, guys. This to me is not a fruity fragrance. Let me just make sure you understand that. It's not a fruity fragrance because the fruity accord is not the dominant accord in this fragrance. It's not, but the fruitiness is one that you are going to pick up throughout the entire olfactory journey, and including the wear of the fragrance. And last but not least, let's talk about the spiciness in each fragrance. So when it comes to Kilian's Angel Share, as I said before, they have not disclosed any spices in their notes breakdown, but I do pick up on spiciness. Oh yeah. This is very clear to me, guys. At first sniff, without even having to go through the entire olfactory process, I can tell you there is some level of spice here. And I don't want to say, because, you know, I don't really know, but if I had to guess, I would say there's some cardamom in this fragrance and maybe some pepper, but they have not disclosed any spices, so let's go with that. But I'm telling you, there is spiciness to this fragrance. It's not very spicy. It's not fresh spicy either, because this fragrance to me is not fresh at all, but there's definitely some spiciness. When it comes to KHAMRAH and KHAMRAH KHAWA, I can tell you that both of these fragrances are spicy, but again, the spicy accord has been done in very different ways. Not only do they have different notes within the spice realm, but the way that the spiciness or the spice accord has been done is quite different. When it comes to KHAMRAH, what I do pick up is that the opening is spicy, but not very much, because it's accompanied by the note of bergamot, which brings a level of citrusy feel to the fragrance, right? And I do pick up on a bit of cardamom and a bit of black pepper in the opening of KHAMRAH, with the bergamot in the background. Now, when it comes to KHAMRAH KHAWA, this to me is the spiciest of all of these fragrances. And in KHAMRAH KHAWA, what I experience is a very strong spicy opening, and it is all controlled by ginger. Very, very interesting, guys. But that opening to me clearly is all about that spiciness, and it is ginger. Now, when it comes to Cognac Blaze, this one is definitely spicy. But the spiciness here is not as strong as in KHAHWA, but it's not as faint as in KHAMRAH, right? So the one in KHAHWA is intense, and the one in KHAMRAH is a bit weak, and this one would be in between those two. And I'm going to leave Angel Share out of this equation since they say that there's no spiciness to that fragrance, but I am telling you, I'm picking up on spiciness. Anyway, so when it comes to Cognac Blaze and that spiciness, what I am picking up clearly is on the myrrh, because you know, it's very hard to mask the note of myrrh, and you can clearly pick it up, and I'm all here for it because I really love that note. But I'm also picking up on black pepper. Now, do one or the other overpower? Yes, I think that you're going to pick up more on the myrrh before you pick up on the black pepper. They both come into the olfactory journey almost at the same time to my nose, but the myrrh is so dominant that honestly, guys, it almost to a certain point, it does like diminish the effect of the black pepper. One more accord that I did want to touch on, and I almost forgot, is the coffee, right? So am I picking up that coffee, and how is the coffee translating? So when it comes to Kilian's Angel Share, I really don't pick up on coffee at all. I don't think there's any coffee there, but I do pick up on the tonka clearly. I just wanted to make sure you understand that. When it comes to KHAMRAH, I'm also not picking up on coffee, but I am picking up on a strong tonka. And it's kind of like blended with the vanilla to a certain extent. Now, when it comes to KHAMRAH, I do pick up on the coffee. But it's very interesting because the way that I pick up on the coffee, it's almost like the coffee, it's a coffee bean and it's being introduced with vanilla beans, right? It's almost like there's an earthiness in the background of it that makes me feel that way, right? That these are coffee beans that have been blended together and they create that entire experience. Now, when it comes to Cognac Blaze, I'm really not picking up on coffee at all, guys. I really am not, and I wonder if that's just not a function of the fact that it still needs to macerate a bit more, but I'm really not picking up on much coffee. Before I close on the accords, I did want to mention that when it comes to Cognac Blaze, guys, that fruitiness that I pick up in Cognac Blaze, when I said that I'm picking up more than just mandarin, it's because I'm picking up on like some coconut. The coconut is not a creamy coconut. It's like coconut flakes, right? Not coconut shavings necessarily, but like coconut flakes. That's really what I am getting from this fragrance within that fruity realm. Does it give it a tropical feel, in case you're wondering, because we're talking about coconut? No, it does not at all. This is not, to my nose, this is not a tropical fragrance whatsoever. So now let me just focus on Cognac Blaze and give you some additional details, you know, typical to any review. So guys, I really find this fragrance to have a level of deliciousness that I can only compare to the level of deliciousness that I pick up from Kilian's Angel Share. I mean, these are fragrances that all four, of course, do give you a similar vibe, but some more than other. And am I saying that Cognac Blaze is more of a similar vibe to Angel Share than the others? No, I think they each have something that brings them close to the Angel Share realm without really making it to the Angel Share heaven. Because I am telling you right now, Angel Share to my nose and to me, and in my opinion, is still Angel Share. The dry down of this fragrance is just phenomenal, and it really hasn't even had a chance to sit for like a year, so imagine. But the dry down of Cognac Blaze is something that almost has me on a chokehold because it is so boozy gourmand. It is just perfection. Is it as boozy as Angel Share? No, but it's very close. But the dry down, that's where all of the magic and the beauty of this fragrance really comes in. When it comes to this fragrance being unisex, I would say that this is definitely a unisex fragrance. And if I had to pick a lean, I would say that some may consider that this leans a bit to the feminine side. I'm one of those people. I think this is a unisex fragrance that has a slight lean to the feminine side. I think this is most appropriate for 25 plus, and there is absolutely no oud in this fragrance. I'm not picking up on any oud whatsoever. I think that this fragrance is definitely best suited for spring, fall, and winter, but this is definitely one that you can pull off during the summer season, but not on very hot days where you're going to be outside. This fragrance right now is getting me 6 hours if I overspray, and just overspraying, because sometimes I overspray and it's like a lot. No, but just a couple of additional sprays, you know, is all it takes for me to get 6 hours from this fragrance. It does have a strong projection during the first hour and a half, and then it does become a skin scent. But that skin scent will give you whiffs of the fragrance all throughout the day, and people will still pick up on it. The sillage is definitely moderate, but you are going to get people to pick up on your wearing this fragrance. And while I still have not received a compliment, I'm pretty sure that with the smell of this fragrance, we will all get compliments. This is a fragrance that I recommend for any occasion, day and night. This is not one that I would wear during the day during the summer, but I would wear this, you know, day and night during the spring, the fall, and the winter seasons. And during the summer, I would focus more on late afternoon and evening if you're not going to be outside in extreme hot weather. So let me give you my conclusions on this fragrance. So when it comes to Cognac Blaze, guys, in my opinion, this fragrance is not Angel Share. I even argue that I don't even think that they intended, even though they have this bottle that looks like Kilian's Angel Share and everything, I just don't think that they intended to make this a fragrance that could potentially be a dupe to Angel Share. No, I think that they took some of the DNA of Angel Share and maybe even some of the DNA from both KHAMRAHs, and they created their own version, their own twist, and put it in this bottle so that they could compete. That's just me with my conspiracy theories, but that's really what I think, guys, because this fragrance is not KHAMRAH, it's not KHAMRAH, and it's certainly not Angel Share. But at that, guys, I really am loving this fragrance, and I am very, very happy that I picked it up. Now, this is a fragrance that when you compare it to the other three fragrances, it's not going to give you the exact same feel. You are going to know that you are experiencing a fragrance that's in the same realm and it has similar vibes, but it is definitely not the exact same fragrance. I think it's really a combination of all three, and then a twist added around that fruity accord, as I explained earlier. But all in all, guys, this is a fragrance that I am really, really enjoying. Although this fragrance has not had a chance to macerate, I definitely do recommend it, and I do give it a 9 out of 10. We've reached the end of today's video, and I hope that the information I shared with you today is useful for you. Let me know what you think about this new collection from Paris Corner in the comment section. If you've picked up any of these fragrances, I am so curious to know what your thoughts are. And as always, guys, thank you so much for hanging with me today, and I will see you all in the next video.